Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. In the recent version 1.29 update for Gran Turismo 7, one of the cars that we got was the Honda RA272. And this car is pretty fun to drive, but I'm not making a video because of that. I'm making a video because this car is actually really good when it comes to two of the human comedy events. So the 1 hour of the Forest race and the 1 hour of Alsace race. You can find this car in the Legends car dealership for 2.5 million credits as of the making of this video. And I'll be splitting this video into two parts. The first part is the Deep Forest race. The second part is the 1 hour Alsace race. So let's go ahead and get this started. So for the 1 hour of Deep Forest race, it's 1 hour long with the fuel at ×2 and tire wear at ×7. We're only using the racing hard and medium tires, and the performance point rating is 620 or less. So this is a tune that I came up with. My goal was to try to keep this car pretty light while trying not to reduce the power way too much because this car doesn't have that much power to begin with. One thing that you want to keep in mind is that for this tune, I'm using the fully customizable manual transmission, and you'll see the gearbox settings in the next screenshot. And I did stiffen the springs just a little bit more so the car can be a bit more predictable when it comes to the hard braking zones, since this track has two really hard braking zones. So I want to make sure that the car stayed predictable when you were braking in those areas. But on to the showcase for the 1 hour of Deep Forest race, and I find this car interesting to drive. The reason why I say that is because this car has zero downforce. So when you're going through the infield parts of the track, you have to try to position the car in a certain way to try to get the most out of the turn through these cars, as I'm using my magical powers to go between two cars. But anyways, so you have to try to position the car in a certain way to try to go through a turn at the fastest speed possible, because you're not in a Group 4 car or a tuned car where you have some downforce. Yeah, this one has none, so you have to try to position the car just right so you can get a lot of speed out of it. And quite honestly, I'm not too sure which car to compare the RA272 with, because at least for me personally, I find this car to be a bit of a unique driving experience. I personally find this car to be a bit more understeery, so you want to brake a little bit earlier to get yourself set up for the turn, and when you're exiting a turn, just be nice and patient getting on the throttle so you don't get too much understeer coming out of a turn. So while the Honda isn't the best when you're going through the twistier parts of the track, it finds its time when you're going through the main and the back straight, because oh boy, this car is a bit of a missile for this race. And you'll see that right now, because I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of the slipstream of this McLaren, just smoothly turning on in through the final turn. And I'm going to go ahead and go over 160 miles per hour. And in some cases, it's possible to even hit around 165 miles per hour. If you have a good wind direction and a slipstream, then it's possible to go over 165 miles per hour. And again, just trying to position the car through these turns to try to get as much speed out of it. It's not the easiest thing to do the first time around, but once you get used to how this car drives, then it'll become a bit easier to get the car positioned just the way you want it. And this little left kink that is coming up, so this one right here, you can slow down just a little bit earlier to prevent the car from sliding out way too much, because if you take that turn a bit aggressively, then the car will start to slide around a bit. And the slide is controllable, but it can be a bit scary for some people. But if you want to try to be safe through that turn, then you can slow down just a little bit earlier and the car should behave. In terms of general pace, for the other cars that I've made tunes for when it comes to this race, the general times that they were doing were around low 134s to high 133s. With this car, the Honda RA272, you can do low 133s and mid 132s if you nail everything down. And for me personally, this is the fastest build I've come across so far. I think the Aston Martin VGT could probably come close to this sort of pace, but I haven't tested it out, so I'll find it out one day. But for this car, yeah, this car is really fast once you start to get a hang of this car and nail everything down. In terms of pit strategies, fuel is yeah, if you look at the fuel is not an issue at all. In terms of tire wear, it can last the entire race, but you have to ask yourself an important question. How good are you with managing your tires? And this is because the tires will barely last the entire race. It is possible to make them last the entire race, but you're gonna get very close. So if you're not good with tire saving, then yeah, you can do a pit stop, because hopefully by the time you make the pit stop, you'll already be well ahead of whoever is in second place. And to show you what I mean, I'm going to go ahead and skip on over towards lap 20. So we're about to hit the 30-minute mark of this race. Fuel is looking good so far. Tire wear, there is some tire wear on all 4 tires, but they're still in pretty good shape. So I would say that once you're past the 30-minute mark, that's when you can pit if you want to. And of course, you're only going to pit for tires as I hit the AI car. But for me, I'm gonna try to make the zero stop work. It's not going to be the easiest thing ever, but it is possible to do the zero stop in the RA272. And you can actually see that on lap 14, that was my fastest lap throughout the entire session at a 132.572. But again, I'll do the lap guide for it later. Let's go on over to the 45-minute mark, where tire wear is getting a bit worse, but the car is still drivable. I'm currently at least 1 lap ahead of everyone, so if I wanted to, I could go to the pit stop and get a new set of racing hard tires, or keep attempting the zero stop. And well, I'm going to keep attempting the zero stop, so let's go ahead and skip on over towards the end of the race. So we're about to hit the 1 hour mark. We're on lap 39, and yeah, that rear right tire is pretty much dead. So this is where you have to be pretty careful about how you're driving if you're attempting to zero stop, because the car can get pretty sketchy once the tires wear out. Yeah, you have to be careful if you're trying to do the zero stop. You have to take pretty good care of those tires to make sure that they last the entire race. I don't know how I was able to make them last the entire race, but that's what happened. And again, fuel was not an issue. Tire wear, they can last the entire race, but you have to be careful about how you're driving throughout the entire hour. And again, I know someone's going to say this, oh, you should have pitted. I know I could have pitted, but I was really curious about trying to do the zero stop. And well, it can work. You can do the zero stop in the RA272, but yeah, you got to take really good care of those tires. And even then I was doing 133, so not too bad. But anyways, after 1 hour and 50 seconds, I was able to do 39 laps in the Honda RA272, finishing ahead of everyone by 2 laps, with my fastest lap time of a 132.572. So now let's go on over to a quick lap guide of Deep Forest. So bring yourself towards the right side of the track. Your first braking point is the 150 meter board. So once you reach it, brake as much as you can, bringing yourself down to second gear, hit the apex, and slowly get on the throttle. Now this is where it gets tricky, where you want to try to maintain a good flow. So as you pass the sign on the left, use a little bit of braking, a little more braking as you make this left turn. Then when the curb on the left ends, that's where you do a little more braking, and then brake when the tunnel ends. Going down to second gear, you'll eventually approach a little kink, so you can brake right before you hit the apex of this kink to make the car behave just a little bit more to reduce the chance of sliding, and brake just as the bridge begins. Nice and patient getting on the throttle. You don't want to go way too wide onto the green area. Revving the heck out of this car as fuel is not an issue at all. Look for the 150 meter board on the right, as that is your final braking point. And here I brake right before I pass it. Going down to first gear for a bit more rotation, but exit on second gear and get on the throttle as soon as you can. And in a moment, we'll go ahead and finish this lap. And once this lap ends, we'll go on over to the Alsace section of the video. Next up is 1 hour of Alsace race, where the car must be from 1979 or older. Fuel is a ×5 with the tower at ×1, where on the comfort tires and the performance points is 465 or less. And with this tune, I didn't change too much from the suspension settings. I'm still using a fully customizable manual transmission, keyword manual. That way I can try to keep as much power in this car as possible. And yes, I did add a bunch of ballast, all 200 kilograms of it. And here are the transmission settings. I had the auto set at 250 kilometers per hour and then moved the final gear around. But anyways, on to the 1 hour of Alsace race, and just like in the Deep Forest race, it will take a bit of time to get used to how this car handles, because it's a bit of a unique car in terms of the cars that are in Gran Turismo 7. But once you get used to how this car handles, then you'll be able to find more and more time and be able to get more out of this car on this track. So this car was good in the Deep Forest race, but I believe that for the 1 hour Alsace race, this car is stupidly OP. The reason is that even though you had to detune it quite a bit by reducing the power and adding all 200 kilograms of ballast, this car is still pretty fast. And the big thing here is that with the other cars for this race, fuel is an issue, but with this car, fuel is not even an issue at all. You can easily zero stop this race, and all you need to do is drive fast, don't crash, and that's it. That's all the strategy you need for this race. And normally you would do around 24 laps, and I know that because I made a guide before for this race with the Camaro. But here with this car, yeah, you can do up to 26 laps before you run out of fuel. And if you're going for 26 laps, yeah, you will have to fuel save just a little bit, but if you're going for, say, 25 laps, then fuel isn't even an issue at all. You just, again, drive fast, don't crash, and that's it. Skipping over towards the 30-minute mark, so we're in the middle of lap 13. Fuel is looking pretty good so far, because I'm about to hit the 30-minute mark in about 5 seconds, so give it a moment. And we just hit the 30-minute mark, and I just hit 50% of fuel left, so I'm pretty much using the exact amount of fuel I need to be able to finish the race, so I can pretty much just keep on driving the way I'm driving and I'll be good to go. So now we're in the middle of lap 17, so 40 minutes into this race, and I am just about to overlap the lead cars. So here we have 4th, 3rd, and 2nd place driving together, and I'm going to go ahead and pass them. So now I'm 1 lap ahead of them. And lap 18, which is the lap we're about to start, is my fastest lap. So I'm going to go ahead and do the lap guide starting right about now. So we're going to go ahead and keep revving the heck out of this car and go up to 3rd gear, bring yourself towards the left side of the track, and you're using the 50-meter board on the left as your braking point. Go down to 2nd gear, doing quite a bit of trail braking, but as soon as you hit the apex, you want to get on the throttle as soon as you can, making use of the entire width of the track. And again, just revving the heck out of this car, as fuel is pretty much not an issue at all, unless if you're going for 26 laps. But then bring yourself towards the left, brake before the sign on the left starts, going down to 2nd gear, again, lots of trail braking, trying to be nice and careful with your throttle input. Then bring yourself towards the right, and you just want to do a little bit of lifting off our throttle. So just a little bit of throttle control. Bring yourself up to 4th gear. Again, nice and careful on the throttle so you don't go too wide. Brake before you pass the banner that is above you. Going on to 3rd gear, hit the apex and get on the throttle as soon as you can. Then you want to bring yourself towards the right side of the track. Brake before the sign on the right starts. Going on to 3rd gear, trying to get as close as you can to the apex and get on the throttle as soon as you can. Bring yourself towards the left, and for the big binky boy, you can use just a tiny bit of braking to fine tune your car's direction and speed, but for the most part you just want to do lots of throttle control, just trying to maintain as much speed as possible. And this is where it gets a little tricky, so brake before the curb on the left starts, using braking and throttle at the same time to keep the car nice and stable. You want to brake early for the left turn because the hairpin comes at you right away, so really easy to overshoot it. Little lift off our throttle as you go through this left turn, just trying to maintain as much speed as possible, making use of the entire width of the track. Keep revving the heck out of this car. And brake before you go under the arch. Go down to second gear for the chicane. I tried third gear, but it's a little bit slower in my opinion, so just go down to second gear before you enter the chicane. And with that, I was able to get a 221.661, and yeah, this is a really fast lap time, and again, you're not even stopping at all. So now let's go ahead and go over to the end of the race. So here we are with about 30 seconds left in this race, and we're at the end of lap 25. I know I could have just sat around before the finish line and just waited another 20 seconds, but we're gonna go overkill, and we're gonna go ahead and do 26 laps. So if you're going for 26 laps, fuel is a bit of an issue, so you will need to do just a little bit of fuel saving. So the way you can do this is by shifting just a little bit earlier than usual, because normally you rev the heck out of this car, and you can also adjust the fuel mapping. So right now I'm not revving the car all the way out, so I'm kind of just shifting when the bar starts to blink, and I'm not going to touch the fuel mapping until the very end of the race because I'm going to be cutting it really close. So let's go ahead and make our way to that section. So just after the final sector starts, I'm going to hit 0% of fuel, so I'm basically just running on fumes at this point. So this is where I start to adjust the fuel mapping to make sure that I don't run out of fuel right before the race ends. So just fuel up 6 just for a little bit so I can make sure that I finish the race. Then back to fuel up 1 because I'm going uphill. Back to fuel up 6 just for now, and at this point I should be good on fuel. But if you're going for 25 laps, fuel should not be an issue, but just keep an eye on the fuel just in case. If you're going for 26 laps, then yeah, you'll have to fuel save a little bit. But other than that, after 1 hour and 2 minutes, able to get 26 laps in. Yeah, this car is ridiculously good, finishing 2 laps ahead of everyone else with the fastest lap of 221.6. So closing thoughts, this car is a unique driving experience because I cannot find or think of a car that can compare this to in terms of driving experience or general driving experience. The Honda, yeah, this car, the RA272, really fun car to drive once you get the hang of it. Really fast car, especially for the 1 hour Alsace race where it pretty much just becomes broken levels of OP, as you can go really fast. You don't even have to worry about fuel. And yeah, this car is just ridiculous, but in a really good way. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you for watching this video, and if you like this video, you can press the like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And well, that's it for me. So take care. This is Mr. MC8, the world's most okay player, and I'll see you in the next video.